Right, so last night I was particularly disorganized. The night before I'd been up very late, and so during the morning before we went out yesterday I was not organized, and then nothing was charged, nothing was sort of rounded up for planting, and when we got home in the evening my brain was not sufficiently with it to last through charging everything, finding everything, coming out and planting things in the dark. So I apologize for that, and as someone who is ethnically Catholic, I do have that very fundamental tendency to, if I have failed a little bit at something, give up on it entirely, but I'm trying to not do that here. So we're going to go with 3 plantings today rather than 2, so we're sort of trying to do a little bit of extra catching up on the missing my catching up. So I'll try and do 3 again tomorrow and see how that goes. But anyway, first up tonight we're going to be going with a nice simple planting. This is a Sabal palmetto, which I really enjoy because both the common name Sabal palmetto and the Latin name Sabal palmetto are the same. So this one is going in a very shady spot. This is actually where I had once thought to dig a pond before finding out there were some tree roots, so it's actually still got that little bit of a decline because I thought that'd be quite an interesting structure to eventually plant in, and then I didn't get around to planting things in it, so it filled up with comelinas and fallen leaves, and also I started then trying to rebuild the soil with palm leaves, which has created a really nice sort of texture here, but quite difficult to dig in. But anyway, when we found a spot between the leaves, we're popping in the Sabal palmetto, and we're not putting many companion plants because there's a lot of Plectanthus neochilus, which is the lobster flower, and a lot of Comelina communis, which is the azacow, which do fill up this space a lot in the rainy season, so small companion plants and ground covers will be very easily lost. But we are going to put a galangal, which has survived the winter, which is really pleasing. This is a ginger-related spice. It's sometimes called pink ginger, but it's slightly different in its flavor profile. Generally, it's much rounder. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's very useful in a lot of Asian cookery, and it's, yeah, my big concern was it wouldn't survive the winter, and it has that, and so, but it does also want a lot more water than we get here normally. So areas that are low-lying and get a lot of water are much better for this, whereas something like turmeric I would tend to put on a slope where it's going to drain more. This I'm tending to put in very wet areas because even in a pot which gets watered quite regularly, it does show water stress quite regularly. Second up, we're staying in the thicket and going with a very standard tree for my thicket plantings, which is a custard apple. This is going in an area which is uncharacteristically bare for within my thicket. This is because we are quite close to the chickens here, and although they don't tend to dislodge the large palm trees, all the ground covers I put in here and quite a few coffee seedlings that I put in this area have been kicked to death by them. So I want something a little bit more robust and a little bit hardy that will fill out in this area and create a sort of hedge, because effectively my thicket is a maze of little hedges of mixed species multi-layered vegetation. The idea there being that I have maximum access to a whole wide range of things, and because of the pathways creating watering positions and areas for light to filter through, you can have ground cover not being shaded out even where there are sort of lots of multi-layered plants nearby. But anyway, my ground cover here doesn't exist. My sort of mid-level hasn't been able to establish because of the chickens, and so just here I'm going to be putting in a custard apple, which is known as squamosa. It's a really nice hardy little tree with quite a tasty, slightly vanilla-y tasting fruit. We're going to be putting in 2 little companion plants with this one. So one is a pretty robust ground cover which should survive the chickens and also protect our little sapling from the chickens here. So this is Sansevieria, I think it's Sansevieria Downsy. I was getting mixed up with Pearsonii, but we'll see the other one later today. And this is a very prickly native Sansevieria, and it has a really lovely, very high flower spike. It's very showy, but also very durable. It's also quite a nice Sansevieria for this area because this is an area the mole rats do periodically use, and this Sansevieria, because it has a lot of its mass above ground, tends not to be too bothered by mole rats nibbling off the bits below ground. We're also going to be putting in Dracaena reflexa, which is mostly going to stop people walking into this as they go past, because this is next to the path, and eventually that Dracaena will probably have to be propagated away because it will be using the same sort of height as the custard apple. Third, tonight I'm going in an area where we used to have a whole bunch of agapanthus before the mole rats decided that those were food, actually. And then the chickens have prevented most other things from growing here when I have previously got things established that are too small to stand up to them. So we're going with something that is immediately big enough to stand up to them, which is one of the Carpentarias, which you probably were expecting. This is a lovely Australian palm. It's very slender, so it's very cooperative in a shady setting with a lot of other trees, and because it's so slender, it's quite good to have it out of windy areas, so we're still in my thicket here. It's not really going to get much ground cover because, again, the chickens don't tolerate much here, and we're in quite a shady spot, so there's not too many things would like it here. But we are going to be putting a piece of one of the other Sansevieras, so this is Sansevieria pearsoni, I think. It will be up on the screen because I do get a few of the native ones mixed up. And this is a very nice sort of upright growing one that gets quite tall when it's doing well. It does like our soils pretty well. It can be a little bit vulnerable to mole rats, but it does grow very well, albeit slowly from leaf cutting, so when it gets nibbled, you can just plant any leaves that are left in pots, and they will regenerate reasonably slowly, but quite reliably. And that should be everything for tonight, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you haven't enjoyed it, thank you for watching anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow, because I will be planting something else. I'm not sure what, but there should be 3 of it, so we'll see.